Hello, Peppy Hare here, and welcome to my 11th model review. Now, other than my first 10 models, I went for something a little bit different. Rather than making just a standard blue tack kind of model, I actually went ahead and made a custom posable actual figure. So this character is Peppy Hare from Star Fox, and you might just be looking at the only Peppy Hare figure ever. And just one quick rotate around. Okay. Now before I get to reviewing the model, let's just go through the process of making him. But if you want to skip to just straight to review, then please click here on the link. as I said before, you might be looking at the only Peppy Hare figure. And the reason I made him is because I like to buy quite a lot of posable figures, like things like play arts and stuff, but the most figure I've always wanted is a Peppy Hare figure, but unfortunately there was never ever one ever made. Like, I know there was a prototype Fox McCloud figure, but even that didn't get released, so they just stopped the line altogether. So, because I really wanted a Peppy Hare figure and there wasn't one available to buy, I decided to really go for it and just make my own custom one, and here he is right now. And in the end, I am very happy with the result and how he turned out. But let's have a closer look at him. That's face. Okay. There we go. Sculpt. Now this figure wouldn't have been possible without the help of another Revoltech figure, and I have him right here. Here he is, Professor Layton. As I mentioned, if you did watch the review, as I mentioned, he uses Revoltech joints, so you can see the joint here and so on, but we'll get to him later. Now, this is the sheet which I printed out for the reference of making him, and it was like, when I came to drawing his diagram, like how I would make the joints work, it was really difficult because he's quite a small scale. Like, I knew that if I put the Revoltech joints in, they'll end up colliding with each other. So how can I show like a example? If I just quickly take Layton's joints, like, because Peppy's joints are small, like if I try to put them like that, joints will just touch each other inside the part, so this will result in not working. So to get around this, like for example, like try and show it better. Like for example, his leg part, if I tried to really fit it in, it wouldn't really fit, so overall the entire figure will probably have to be quite a bit bigger. But to get around this, rather than having it straight on like that, I actually have it, so if you imagine his leg part joint here, imagine this is his leg, imagine the top joint, rather than being like that, it's actually like that, if that makes sense. So one's slid in like that and one's put in like that, so they don't collide each other, but they still both work well. So that's how I got around the joints, but it was pretty hard, like calculating, like when I made each part, it was hard to calculate when pushing the hole in. It was hard to calculate if it was going to work or not, like if it was in the right place, and making sure that it will still stand up straight when he's finished. But I think overall he turned out pretty good, like with the slight angled joints. And let's just quickly put Layton back together. Like I said, Layton was a very big help with this project. Like, before even making Peppy and his joints, I had to really analyse what kind of articulation and parts Layton had. So I had to like really like take him apart and just look at the parts. So like looking at his arm is made out of two parts and one joint in the middle and a joint here which connects to his torso, and then his leg as well. So I had to really look at how like what makes Layton able to work, like how is he able to do all these poses. So look, looking from this reference, I applied it to Peppy. So Peppy's got very similar articulation. So Layton's got a head articulation, shoulder, elbow, hand, wrist, waist articulation, thigh, knee, and ankle articulation. And Peppy's pretty much got all that, but I think he's lacking about 3 points, I think. So, like Leighton, Peppy's also got a head. However, unlike Leighton's neck joint, his is actually on a, like the regular kind of Revoltech joint, so it's on a ball with 2 pegs. So he's able to look left and right and up and down. But with Peppy, he's actually, just taking off the stand quickly. With Peppy, he can look left and right, but that's it. That's because he only uses a one-way joint, which is just a swivel kind of joint. I originally wanted to use a board joint, but you know, I didn't want to make the process of making him like overly extremely complicated, because believe me, this custom figure was by far extremely complicated to make. Like it was just so hard and frustrating getting each part to work and making sure everything fits right. But yeah, he's also got shoulder joint, elbow joint, and wrist hand joint. He's got a waist joint, but like Leighton, he can't go. Leighton's can go up and down, but Peppy's can't because it's on a swivel joint like his neck, so he can only go side to side. And his leg joint here, and can go all the way up here. Leg joint can reach that far. And one of the missing joints is in his ankles. Like with Leighton, he's got a joint here which allows him to pivot and swivel his ankles, but Peppy doesn't. I originally did plan it to have it, which you can see on the diagram here. I originally did plan it, but while making it, I made his foot, and then I actually separated in half and tried to put a joint in, but it became way too fragile, and then the part just wasn't stable enough to just support that kind of size. So like if I tried to put it in, it would just become way too fragile. This arm, sorry. It would just become way too fragile, and then just wouldn't really work. So I had to end up just having his foot as a one piece, but I think it works fine still. I mean, you know, it's still pretty good. And like yeah, like I said, like without Leighton, this figure wouldn't really be possible to make. So thanks, Leighton, you've been a huge help. Now, like as I mentioned, like I wasn't able to obtain any artwork of him from all angles, so the hard way was to get actual screenshots of his front and his back view. Couldn't find a side view of him though, but because I know Peppy quite well, I can quite kind of imagine how he would look from the side. And like I said, that's his face, so I can get a closer, more detail to make his head. Yeah, and like I made as well his interchangeable hand holding the gun. Like, I think it looks okay, but I don't think I did that great of a job at his gun. It's a bit like it's because when I placed it into bake, it kind of bent a bit and didn't have enough support to become straight. So, but I think overall, in the end, it still looks okay. And to change it, just like any other Revoltech figure, you take that part out and just slot the new hand on. Almost just slide it in there. Yeah. Okay. Now he's holding his weapon. Okay, it was hard painting his eyes because, you know, at such small scale, it was really like had to be very careful, like just carefully painting on the eyes and pupils. But I think in the end they came out okay, pretty good. And yeah, I mean, like, because it's a bit strange, but one of my kind of dreams was to actually have a Peppy Hare figure, and because there was never one made and I had to end up making one myself, it's just, you know, it's like it's like a huge accomplishment to me, and you know, like actually able to make one of my kind of dreams come true. But yeah, here he is, Peppy, and then put him back on this stand. Like, actually, oh yeah, another thing with Leighton that really helped me was if you look closely here at the part of his shoulder, elbow joint, it's like with the parts here, if you look very closely, it's a bit angled at this part in here. So this is able to make the joint able to go all the way like that. And because this side doesn't have the angles, it can't go as far. I've also applied this to Peppy, so when making the parts, I also had to angle the parts slightly at the end so that he'll have much more articulation. So now you can bend his arm all the way there. So that was quite hard to get right as well, because I had to really get each part shape like quite accurate to what I wanted them to look like, so that they can be that articulated. Yeah. Yeah. So articulation, like he's able to do all this sort of stuff. And his leg can go all the way up there. Same with this leg. Waist joint. Now with the coat, I originally did want to make it so that it was more of a kind of flexible material, so that it'll keep its shape but you can bend it so it's like rubber. But I know there's a clay now which is called Bake and Bend, which does that, but back then I didn't know there was such a clay. So, and I was still getting used to using Super Sculpey and these kind of paints as well, so this whole process was all new to me, and so I didn't want to make it any more complicated than it already was. But yeah, let's put him back on the stand. See if I can quickly pose him. Just spread his legs a bit. Oh, by the way, this figure is pretty fragile. Like, it's not really for playing around, which I'm sure you can guess, because he's custom made. So I have to be very careful when moving each joint. Yeah. Just touch it back to the stand. Oh, by the way, the stand I did not make. The stand is from another figure. Like, Peppy can stand on his own, but you know, you never know, just in case. I think it's always better to have a stand. So, yeah, there we go. Different pose. Peppy ready for action. For the choice of hands, I chose this hand because, you know, this is like one of his signature poses, like hands for his pose, which is that. So, you know, it didn't feel right not having a hand like this. And for his left hand, instead of a kind of fist, I chose to have it kind of general gesture, kind of open hand, so that they can be used for multiple kind of poses. So one for that's like this, kind of action pose, or like the other one when for his other pose you can just have it like resting on his back, so that the hand works in multiple poses, and the hand to hold his gun. But yeah, I mean, I am very like happy that I actually have a Peppy figure now. Like, even though, you know, custom made, I guess it makes it extra special. Let me see if Let's see if I can make him hold his gun with 2 hands. Yeah, cool. Oh, if you've noticed, like, I know that Peppy's design, his scarf, is mainly red, but I chose to use green instead because if you remember, before Fox McCloud takes over the team, he's with James, and if you look at the image carefully, he's actually wearing a green scarf. So, and I chose green as well because, you know, just to add a bit more variety to his colours, like, because he's got quite a lot of red already. If I made a scarf red as well, then, you know, it would be quite, look like one big piece. So I decided to make it green, just add a bit more, like, colour variation and detail. But yeah. But overall, this was by far the hardest model of all of mine so far to make. Like, it was just a whole new experience, you know, like using new materials like Sculpey and using new paints and making action figure, you know, it was just, careful, sorry. You know, it was just a whole new experience for me, and I think in the end I did quite well at it. I mean, I'm very happy with the result and how he looks, so, yep. One final pose. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I know this review has been quite long, but you know, there was a lot to talk about, and like, I mean, there's still so much more I haven't talked about in the process of him, but like, I've talked about the main kind of major parts of it, and you know, I had to just sum it up into this video. But I hope you enjoyed this review, and you know, I'm like really happy to have a Peppy Hare figure. Like, yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this review, and hope you see my future models that I'll be creating soon. So, Peppy Hare, Peppy for Brawl, signing out.